why do you train? This is a really important question. And if you're listening to this, you're the type of person that knows what really drives someone's behavior. One of the main drivers of human behavior is your purpose, why you are doing something. What is the story behind something? And one of my most favorite things to do is to find someone successful. Like there was this baseball team called the Savannah Bananas. And I was watching this, and it's very popular. Every game sells out. And this gentleman reinvented the game of baseball and made it super fun. And he made it for families. And so, but knowing his why behind it, that's just one example. You can do that with Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. You could do it with anybody that had any level of success, but also anyone with failure or anyone with regret. Because often it is a lack of purpose that prevents us from following through, that creates procrastination. And a lot of people have heard this before, but very, very few have gone deep on it, has drilled down and cultivated and chiseled out a compelling purpose, a higher purpose that makes sure that you follow through even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it, even when you are feeling overwhelmed. You find this energy. This is spiritual energy. This is not physical energy. This isn't based off what you eat. This comes from the real you, from that lion, that lioness. This is soul energy. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to share a couple stories with you that I normally wouldn't share personal stories, but this is maybe the most perfect example of why I train. And when I would share the purpose of why I train with people, they would be like, yeah, like that's ever going to happen. Well, things do happen. And so I live in my house is in Florida. I live on the Intercoastal, which is like the ocean, but there's a little slither of land across from it. So it's like a channel that goes directly to the ocean, if you don't know, and it's saltwater. And so I was in my backyard. I have like a dock, and I'm in my backyard, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, something comes flying up, and a shark right by my dock, like right beside it, it's not very far out, breaches the water and's like eating something. And I was like, whoa. And I always feed the fish. I love animals and stuff. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. And that was in my mind, though. I want to start with that because that's an important point. And so about a week ago, exactly a week ago, I came home, and I got to tell you, I have a dog. I've had my dog for so long. I don't even remember how long, but I adopted her, and she's the sweetest dog. And I've had so many animals in my lifetime. I've had over 100 dogs, for instance, since I was a kid, because my mom would, anytime an animal needed a home, we took care of it. Well, I took care of it. I fed it and took care of it my entire life, and I learned so much from that. And I really love animals. And but my dog, me and her name's Gaia, and Gaia is Mother Earth. And so when I first got her, I was like, this is the best puppy on earth. And I would literally just talk to her like a person. She would listen. I didn't have to train her. I'm like, hey, just sit there. Or I'll be walking her. I'm like, hey, go in the mangrove so I don't have to pick it up. You know? Like I'm telling you, I'm not even exaggerating. That's how this Gaia is. She's the best. And so I was at the Lion's Den, which is my warehouse where I work out of. And I came home and something fell off. And so I walk in the house and I put my phone down, put my keys down. I look around and Gaia's usually right there. And so I don't see her. So I look outside, I don't see her. And I'm like, huh. So I walk outside and I go to the dock and I said to myself, whatever happens, happens. And I don't even know why I said that. And I go to the end of the dock, I look out and I see a coconut like floating in the water. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Gaia. My dog is in the Intercoastal. And I flash to that moment where the shark come busting out of the water. And she was further out than that. So next thing I know, shoes and everything, I'm in the water swimming out to get her. And it's pretty far out there. And the current's pretty strong too. And I can see like she's struggling. Her head's starting to go under the water. So I get to her and I pull her up and I'm swimming, but like she's like a little out of it. So I'm like trying to squish the water out of her mouth. And we're still swimming though against the current. And we finally get back to the dock, but it has all these barnacles. And so like when I go to grab it, and I knew this was gonna happen, I just had to grab it though. And they're like razor sharp. So now I'm bleeding like pretty profusely. And I'm thinking of this shark too on top of it, but I'm more concerned about my puppy. And so I get to the point where I can stand and I'm carrying her and I pull her out of the water, and it's not that easy to get out of there. There's all these rocks and stuff. And then I set her down, and she's like out of it, and but she's conscious. And so I check on her, and I come back, go get a towel and stuff, and just making sure she's okay. And she survives it, but she's hurt. And so there's more to do, but she's okay. And it occurred to me, like, because it's kind of like the adrenaline just takes over. And in that moment, I realized, like, man, I'm so happy I train. Because my purpose for training is I want to live greatly and with no regrets. So what that means is, like, my best friend weighs like 290 pounds, like, and he's not fat, right? And so I think about that. Like, if something ever happens and he's unconscious, like there's a fire or something, I'm not leaving that building without him. He's coming with me, or I'm dying with him, you know? And I mean that. And so I train, like, I drag shit that weighs I always make it 333 pounds. Like, I can pick up 333 pounds off the ground multiple times because of him. Now, if he was small, I wouldn't be as strong as I am. So it's a blessing. But I never want anyone, even if I don't know him that well, to ever be a victim in my presence. And it's really important to me, because I think the worst thing anyone can be is a coward, because that means you gave in to fear. You made fear your God. You worshiped fear. You let fear control every aspect of your life when it mattered most. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is what I believe. And I've taken the time to really hone in on what I believe and the stories I tell so that I can change my life and live my life the way I want. And so the big thing was I thought about this, and I realized that I had like a couple choices here. But if I didn't train, I wouldn't. If I wasn't physically capable or mentally capable, emotionally capable enough to jump in the water, swim a distance with a current, grab my dog, who weighs 60 pounds, and swim with her back and carry her out of the water through the rocks and the boulders, then I would had to have either watched her drown, or I would have jumped in the water and drowned with her, which would have been the only option to me, because I would not sit there and watch my dog drown, or really anyone for that matter. And so training, most people train for the wrong reason. Well, first of all, they don't train, they exercise. And why is that? Because we've been conditioned, especially women, but men too. Men just don't talk about as much. We've been conditioned, we've been told this story that we're all supposed to have a stomach that looks like this, an ass looks like this, arms that look like that, all these weird things that mean nothing, right? Now, you should have a body that you're proud of. There's nothing wrong with it. That's a choice. That's great, but that shouldn't be the main reason you train. Training intelligently and consistently will extend your life, not just make you live longer, but make you live stronger, live better. So you have lifespan and health span. Those are popular terms right now. But health span is your quality of life, so that you can still do what you want to do. And lifespan is the length of your life. Now, training consistently and intelligently like you're doing will add to, in some studies, 25 years to your life. And when you meet people, and one of my favorite things to do is also to find people that are very old, but very capable and sharp. I want to know what they do. And not long ago, I just shared Dr. Gladys McGarry, who is a pioneer in holistic medicine. She's an MD. She has incredible stories. She has a book called The Life Well Lived. She has many books, but that's my favorite one, her newest book. But it's looking at what's real, not like what some 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old person says you should do based off of research. Research is important. Research is not facts. It's probabilities. So I can find one study that says something that's bad for you is good for you. But you have to know how to read research. And most of those are questionnaires. They just they ask people. That's like an observational study, right? It's just like, hey, what's going on here? Hey, it might be that, but it could be a million other things. And so we want to get to this point where we know who we are. Like, do you know you? So a client said to me a couple months ago, she was like, I know me. And I was like, do you? And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, do you really know you? What do you believe? Fill in the blank. Life is. And she's like, life is, and she didn't really have an answer. And so I did coach her on it, right? And And her husband was there, and I was like, ask him, just real quick. And he struggled too. Now, these are people that are sharing their life together, and they don't know what they believe about life. Life is what? Right? Now, the thing is we have two sets of beliefs. We have our lion beliefs and our lamb beliefs. Because if you're in a state of appreciation, you express different beliefs, different stories, than if you're in a state of overwhelm. Think about it, right? That is why your emotional state matters. And that is your number one goal, is to manage that so you have access to your empowering beliefs, beliefs that make your life better, and all those around you, everyone you love, serve, and appreciate, their lives are better because you're expressing those positive beliefs, the beliefs of truth, ideally. So let's bring this back to that purpose. Why do you train? Well, let's start understanding the story you tell. And when I say story, it's not a lie. Like sometimes, people say like, hey, stop telling stories. I'm not saying like that. I'm telling a real story. So stories are how humans communicate. Stories and symbols. Like think of a symbol. Think of a cross, right? Or think of a swastika, right? A swastika is now known because of Nazis. But before that, that has been in many spiritual traditions. And so it doesn't actually mean what people think it means. They change the meaning of the symbol by horrific acts. So symbols and stories. Stories are our beliefs. We become the stories we tell ourselves and others, the stories that we believe. And the way we start to create beliefs is through telling a story. You could make something up and just tell yourself it through repetition and do it with emotion. So hear those words. Clarity of the story. So what is the storyline, the narrative? And then emotion and repetition. Add some sort of suffering, something difficult, something challenging, whether it's not eating or temperature extremes or challenging your body or sleep deprivation. That's how you brainwash someone, but that's also how we brainwash ourselves to be our best. So everything can be overdone or underdone, and the answer is usually in the middle. That is usually, the extremes are not where the answer is. So if you look at dieting, most people will go on some crazy diet, lose some weight, then they gain it all back. But they lost a bunch of muscle, lowered their metabolic rate, and now they gained it back and they lost belief in themselves because they tried something and they failed again, right? So the answer is usually somewhere in the middle, slanted to one direction or the other. That is the law of rhythm, the law of balance that applies to all things. From what I can tell, you can drink too much water and die of hyponatremia because you dilute your sodium levels and your heart stops, or everybody knows you can die of dehydration, right? And so ask yourself these questions. Do you really know you? And to know yourself, what does that mean? It means you know the stories you tell. You know what you believe about life's most important aspects. So ask yourself, let's just talk about training today. I'm going to do more of these and go through the beliefs, and I'll walk you through this over the next couple months. It's what I call the core identity matrix. And it talks about your beliefs that you have when you're in love-based emotional states, the lion, and also in fear-based emotional states, the lamb. And how to make sure you have beliefs that will allow you to live the life the way you want. But you gotta have that North Star. You gotta know what you want in life. Who do you want to be? You can create it. If you want to be a terrible person, it's pretty easy. We know what terrible people do, right? If you want to be who you really are, it's some sort of love-based emotional states. You're giving, you're learning, you're growing, you're serving, you're loving, you're laughing. That's how you become, that's who you really are. That's who we all are on some level. But we start to tell stories and it changes that. It steers us away from the truth. Now, training becomes a ritual, a daily ritual. And a ritual is a repetitive act, right? It's a habit where we take the time to honor the body, the gift we have been given, this miracle of a body. Because if you don't take care of it, it either gets a little better each day or it gets a little worse. You get a little sicker or you get a little more vital. You get a little more energized or you get a little bit more fatigued. Every day we have these micro changes based off how we live. The stories we tell. The stories we tell changes, determines our genetic expression. Think about that. Now, I'm not going to go through that rabbit hole. I'm going to steer this back to training. Why do you train? Because training is the daily ritual to connect to your highest and best self, to who you really are. And so that you can carry that with you the rest of the day. So every time people ask me, is it better to train early in the day or later in the day? I always say early in the day. I used to say it because of results. Of the over almost 4,000 people that we've taken through programs and they've gotten results, that the ones that transformed and continue to improve and live it to this day, those ones all trained before noon, except two. One was in law enforcement, one was an emergency room surgeon, and they worked the night shift. So theoretically, it was the beginning of their day, it was their morning. So that's one reason. But the other reason is when most people are exercising because they don't feel like they're enough. And so like, hey, I don't weigh this much, so I'm not enough. I got to do this. I hate myself unless I check these boxes. I'm not worthy of life's rewards. I'm not enough unless I check these boxes. I need to do this, and this, and then I'm worthy. And that's all a lie. Those are things we made up. Those are stories we made up. And we may not have made them up. We were probably told them, and we were just at a stage of life where we didn't know these things, and we just accepted them unconsciously. So training is the gateway. Exercise is what most people do because they don't feel like they're enough. Training is knowing you're enough and then doing what you need to do to remind yourself and program it to wire up your nervous system. What fires together, wires together. So if you're training and the whole time you're like, oh God, this sucks. I have so much to do today. I got to get this over with. Oh man, I'm so weak. Ow, this hurts. You were programming all that with training. The very thing that will make you live longer, stronger, better in every way. That'll allow you to be your best, give your best to those you love, serve, and appreciate. And if you don't train consistently and intelligently, you will pay the price. Now, my mother did, my own mother did. And I don't want that for anybody else. That's why I do all this. I don't have to do any of this. I want to do this because I get to help people that help a lot of people, and that's you. So training is a sacred act, but it will not become a sacred act until you tell that story, until that becomes your belief. If it's something you have to do because you hate yourself, and maybe those are strong words, but on some level you have to be honest. If you're doing it because you don't like the way you look, at some level you don't like yourself. At least you dislike something, right? And you can not like it, but still do it for the right reason, right? But you got to learn to love this shit. And the way you do it is what you focus on, the stories you tell as you train and anytime you think about it. Like I remember this woman came to me and she was in a lot of trouble. She had to lose weight. Her joints were giving out on her. This was a client's aunt, great aunt. And it was really sad. And she just would not, she's like, I hate to exercise. I hate to sweat. And I was like, well, would you walk? And so I was like, would you go in the sauna? Like, I'm trying to find anything. And and at that stage of my life, I didn't have the skill set to honestly help her. And so she paid the price. She eventually, that was it. She couldn't move anymore. And once you can't move, life is over. Movement is medicine, but movement is life. And so we must learn to love the things that benefit us. And so ask yourself, what would it take for me to skip a training session? When I say me, I mean you, right? So ask yourself, what would it take for me to skip a training session? What would have to happen? Now here, if you've been listening to the CoachCast, been around for a while, you know that we shift gears. So sometimes we just do 10 minutes. If it's tough, if something's going on, you're sleep deprived, whatever, 10 minutes is enough to hold your ground, to put yourself in state. Sometimes we do flow workouts, and sometimes we crush it, right? But we know how to shift gears. That's a skill set. But not every training session is a Rocky movie, and it shouldn't be. That's not how you get results. You have to adjust based off your body's recovery capacity. So what would have to happen for you to miss a training session? Take some time to think about that. And then what you're going to ask yourself next is, why is it important for me to train? Why is it important for me to train? Then you're at a fork in the road. So you can either choose to continue to train, be intelligent about it, shift gears, be consistent, learn to love it, or not do it at all. Start and stop. All in, all out, we like to say, because it sounds better than I quit, I give up, and I start again. I quit, I give up, I start again. That's the truth of it. I used to do that because I was focused on being perfect. I believed I had to be 100% all the time. The truth is 80% is greater than 100%, because 80% allows you to make mistakes, and you can always do more than 80% if you want. But if your goal is 100% and you do 99%, fail. What kind of game are you playing? That's a game I was playing for a long time. And so I never really felt successful because I had these insane standards. Now, standards can be too high and too low. When your standards get too high, you're trying to be perfect. And that is a common trait of the achiever, the committed achiever. Now, what would need to happen for you to fall in love with training, to fall in love with fueling your body, with honoring your body, instead of abusing it or taking it for granted? So why do you train? What would it take for you to miss a workout, to skip a workout? These are important questions. And so I want to invite you to do this one thing. I'm going to wrap this CoachCast up with this. I'm going to invite you to do this. Ask yourself these questions. Contemplate them before you train, as you train, and when you're done training. Come up with a compelling story, a reason to train that is so powerful that you will never miss and you will enjoy it all. What would that story be? What would you have to believe in order to love the things that add to your life? You're listening to this for a reason, my friends. I'm recording it for a reason. Take the time to do this. Invest the time. Contemplate. Go deep. Forge a North Star that is so exciting, so compelling that you cannot wait to take action upon it. That is what most people miss. Everything is first created in the mind, as an idea, as a picture. And as we contemplate it, as we question it, as we expand it, it becomes a bigger picture. It becomes a movie that's moving and has theme music behind it. It's exciting. That's every time someone loves doing something, they are playing that movie, but we're usually unaware of it. So now pick up the pen in your mind and write out the movie script of your life. Start to understand who you are. Do you know you? Most people don't. But if you want to transform your life, the first step is to know who you really are. It's a process. You probably won't get it today. You may not get it this week or this month, but eventually there'll be a moment where you realize, wow, I can't believe I didn't realize this sooner. And it will be one of the greatest realizations of your life, maybe the greatest. I sincerely wish this for you, because when that occurs, you will truly be free. You are greater than any obstacle, any challenge that stands before you, no matter what it is. It was placed there before you for a reason, a purpose, and is either a lesson that you must learn or a launching pad to your next level. You are far more powerful than you know, my friends. Until next time, no lambs, only lions. You tap into the real you, but you have to retrain yourself. The way you retrain yourself is you wake your ass up in the morning and you say, I am here for a reason and a purpose. And it's bigger than my moods. It's bigger than the difficulties of the day. I am here to live like a lion, not the fear of a lamb.